So today I'm going to read some sections from In Praise of Great Compassion. I introduced the book last week and said in it that one of, I think, the strong points of this book is it talks about bodhicitta from the viewpoint of the Chinese Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, and Theravada Buddhism. So I wanted to read some selections from each of the traditions to give you a little bit of a flavor. But the book has much more in it, and will give you a better idea of those things. The section that I'm going to read is from the Chinese Buddhist tradition. And here they give 10 points for reflection that will help us generate bodhicitta. So the first 5 concern mindfulness of the kindness that we have received from the Buddha, our parents, teachers, benefactors, and sentient beings, and realizing that we've been the recipient of tremendous kindness. Then, of course, we want to repay that kindness, and that leads to love and compassion and bodhicitta. And then the remaining 5 points support and direct our bodhicitta. Okay? So I'll just read a little bit from each of these 5 points. The first one is mindfulness of the extreme kindness of the Buddha. So many eons ago, the person who was to become Shakyamuni Buddha, with great compassion, generated bodhicitta and practiced the path until he attained Buddhahood. Where would we be had he not done this for our sake? How would we learn the Dharma and practice the path in this degenerate age had the Buddha not vowed to lead us on the sacred path? So really appreciating what the Buddha did in his own practice and how, what his becoming a Buddha and teaching the Dharma did for us, because we would be lost without that. The second is mindfulness of the kindness of our parents. So our parents gave us this body, which is the support for us to practice the Dharma. They spent years caring for us when we were unable to take care of ourselves. They taught us basic living skills, how to speak, eat, and clean ourselves. They taught us social skills. If our parents were not in a position to do these things for us because of poverty, illness, or their own limitations, they made sure that others cared for us and guided us. Okay, and so to repay that kindness of our parents, which nobody else, or the caretakers, the people who took care of us when we were little, remembering that nobody else except them showed us that same kind of kindness, then wanting to repay that, and knowing that the best way to repay our parents' kindness is through generating bodhicitta and practicing the Dharma, not by becoming the worldly kind of person they would like us to be, because that just makes them happy for this life, if it makes them happy at all. Whereas if we practice the Dharma and generate bodhicitta and realize emptiness, that can bring about their ultimate happiness for a long time to come in the future. The third is the mindfulness of the kindness of our teachers and senior practitioners. So those who teach us skills useful in the secular world, and especially those who teach us the Dharma, have been and continue to be immeasurably kind to us. Everything we know has come from the kindness of our teachers. Without them, we would not know how to read and write, nor would we have basic ethical values. Our behavior would be like that of an animal. So that's just in the secular world. But, when we think about the kindness of our Dharma teachers, it goes beyond that. Our opportunity to learn the Buddha's teaching is due to the effort of our spiritual mentors and senior practitioners. They guide us on the path, encouraging us when we feel tired, steering us in the right direction when wrong views or bad behavior threaten our practice, and they practice patience when we are stubborn, rebellious, or ungrateful. Okay? So the fact that we have been able to take refuge and the 5 precepts, or to become monastics, to take the Bodhisattva vows, to take tantric initiation, all this is due to the kindness of our Dharma teachers. Then the 4th is mindfulness of the kindness of benefactors. Okay? Those who support us so we can learn and practice the Dharma are very generous indeed. Monastics do not earn wages. We are completely dependent on kind benefactors who provide us with the 4 requisites of life: food, clothing, shelter, and medicine. We should live simply as part of our practice of developing contentment and counteracting attachment in order not to inconvenience those who kindly support us. So again, without benefactors providing the 4 requisites, we would have no opportunity to practice the Dharma. Yeah, we would have to go out and get a job and spend our time earning money and doing all those kinds of things. Then the 5th is mindfulness of the kindness of sentient beings. So all sentient beings have been our loved ones in so many previous lives. How do we know that crawling and flying insects we see were not once our parents? Or that when the meat we eat or leather we wear is not the flesh and skin of our friends? Our dear ones have changed form since we knew them as friends and relatives in previous lives, so we may not instantly recognize them. Okay, but they're still our friends and relatives, and to remember their kindness and generate bodhicitta as a way of repaying that, and as a way of not harming them when we encounter them in future lives when we're all in different forms. Okay, then 6 is the mindfulness of the suffering of repeated birth and death in cyclic existence. So those first 5 mindfulnesses were of the kindness we've received from various parties, and here is mindfulness of certain elements that will spur us to practice on the path. Okay, so mindfulness of the suffering of repeated birth and death in samsara. Under the influence of afflictions and karma, we go up and down in samsara, sometimes born amidst the delights of the celestial realms, other times trapped in the pain and agony of the hell realms. Once a seed of destructive karma has ripened, we cannot purify it. We are left with experiencing its result. At this time, we may realize that our misery is brought about from our own harmful actions and regret them, but there is no possibility to go back and undo them. Later, when our immediate suffering has ceased, we forget about the law of karma and its effects, going back to our old ways of seeking pleasure in the present moment, lacking conscientiousness regarding the effects of our actions on others and on ourselves. And with this mindset, we will undoubtedly create more non-virtuous karma, leading to more misery. And so this cycle continues. Even we create virtuous karma, it is still under the influence of ignorance, so it still results in a samsaric rebirth. So thinking about that, we better get out of this mess. 7, respect your own Buddha nature. This is important to give us confidence. The nature of our mind is no different from the nature of the Buddha's mind, yet we are struggling for pleasure amidst confusion while Shakyamuni Buddha enjoys unending bliss. Why is it that the Buddha has compassion, wisdom, and super knowledges and is adorned with the 10 perfections, while we are confused by wrong views and have a storehouse of afflictions and destructive karma? This occurred because even though the person who is now the Buddha was once drowning in samsara, like we are now, he took hold of the life raft of the Dharma, practiced it, and attained awakening. Meanwhile, we neglected the precious jewel of our beautiful Buddha nature, opting to wallow in the mud of samsara. Considering that the nature of the Buddha's mind and the nature of our mind is the same, we've allowed ourselves to be in a pitiful situation. So to really now make effort to understand our potential and make use of it, and not fall into the trap of constantly disparaging ourselves, hating ourselves, putting ourselves down. Okay, 8 is think about the disadvantages of non-virtuous karma. Confess and purify it. So we boldly take monastic ethical restraints and the Bodhisattva vow in our spiritual mentor's presence, as well as taking the 5 lay precepts in our spiritual mentor's presence. Boldly doing that, but are cowardly when it comes to keeping them. We much prefer seeking what we want when we want. We much prefer seeking what we want when we want it to practicing the path to awakening. And in doing so, we blithely transgress our precepts and commit other non-virtues without a second thought. Okay? But then when it comes to confessing things, we get a little bit lazy and we have a whole bunch of rationalizations why it wasn't really a non-virtuous action to start with. It was somebody else's fault. Okay? So that's why this one, we have to think of the disadvantages and then really engage in confession and purification. Okay, 9 is aspire to be born in the Pure Land. So while practice in our polluted world is difficult, in a Pure Land, all conditions are in place for to be able to practice the Dharma with ease and to become a Buddha. While many Buddhas have Pure Lands, Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land is especially suited for us because we can be reborn there without having realized emptiness. Okay, so merit and virtue are needed to be born in Sukhavati, Amitabha's Buddha's Pure Land. And there is no better method to accumulate merit and virtue than concentrating on Amitabha, developing concentration through reciting his name and focusing on his image, and taking very deep refuge through contemplating Amitabha's concentration. Okay, and also by generating bodhicitta and doing actions motivated by bodhicitta, that really increases our merit and virtue so that we can be reborn in Sukhavati. And then 10 is pray for the Buddha's teachings to remain in our world purely and forever. Okay, so here, with the Shengan Shishan, who wrote a prayer. He's one of the Chinese patriarchs. And he said, if, as a child of the Buddha, I am unable to repay such kindness, inwardly there shall be no benefit for myself, and outwardly there shall be no benefit for others. It shall then be the case that while alive I provide no benefit to anyone, and after I die I afford no benefit to those who come along afterwards. In such a case, though the heavens may extend high above, still they remain unable to give me cover. Though the earth may be massive, it remains unable to support me. This is because our lack of dedication and effort. Then, if the phrase, a person possessed of the most extremely grave karmic crimes, does not apply to me, to whom could it ever be applied at all? On account of this, I feel unbearable pain and discern that there is no way to escape from this indictment. Suddenly, I forget my inferior qualities and immediately generate the great resolve for Buddhahood. Although I remain unable to turn back the Dharma-ending process dominating this era, I nonetheless will remain determined to strive to guard and maintain the right Dharma throughout this and all my future lifetimes. So he continues saying, do not, fearing difficulty, shrink back in timidity. Do not, regarding this matter as easy, take it but lightly. Do not, seeking a swift conclusion, fail to make a long-enduring commitment. Do not, through indolence, remain bereft of heroic bravery. Do not, on account of being shiftless and spiritless, fail to incite yourself to bold action. And he goes on in this line. And then says, as for what we have vowed to achieve, it is for all of us together to gain rebirth in the Pure Land, for all of us together to see Amitabha Buddha, for all of us together to engage in the teaching of beings, and for all of us together to perfect the right awakening. And then there's a beautiful verse from the Avatamsaka Sutra. Okay, so again, here the emphasis is to generate bodhicitta and to protect it. So Avatamsaka Sutra says, even if a wheel of fire about your head is wildly whirling and flaming, just do not abandon your bodhi mind, even amidst such strong suffering. So really have strong determination and great courage and go through the difficulties, because at the end you will be able to eliminate not only your own suffering but that of other beings as well. Okay, so the passages from the other two traditions I will read next time.